everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Goals Do Come True with me, Doug Bennett. Today I am joined by Chris Dillon. He is the automation expert, especially WhatsApp automation. Now, I've had the pleasure of his company on one of his courses, and if you get the opportunity to go on one, then I strongly recommend that you consider it. It will be a worthwhile investment if your business is ready to bring automation into your world. Now, I don't know enough about it. I know a little bit. I know a soup psalm. But the man's going to tell us all about it. He's going to tell us how we can achieve our goals using automation. Because obviously this is the Goals Do Come True podcast. So I want to help you achieve your goals, and automation and AI is the way to do it. So Chris, over to you. Thanks for joining me today. It's been a pleasure catching up from our course of the other week.
Definitely, and thank you for welcoming me on as well. Very, very much appreciated. I enjoyed the course. It was good delivering it to a full room for the first time, and definitely setting the foundations for moving forward and doing it in the future. So, no, excited. Very much excited.
That's good. So tell us, what is automation?
Really, really good question. I class it as two different things. One is the removal of regular tasks that you would do as a business owner that may only take 5-10 minutes here and there, but 5-10 minutes every day mounts up really, really quickly over the course of your week, month, and year. And secondly, it's the act of using good automation to set really clear expectations with prospects and not removing the human from the process. So you'll hear me talking a lot about, I don't recommend trying to remove you from your entire sales process and automate the whole thing. I recommend adding automation in so that your prospects are nurtured and essentially handheld through all of the steps that you have, so that when they do get on the phone to you, they're expecting the call, they're looking forward to it, they know what's going to happen, and therefore they're more likely to buy. And I think, especially as you're developing and going towards those goals that you were talking about, as you start scaling, most businesses that I speak to, their bottleneck is themselves, because they're trying to do all of these tasks manually.
Yeah, I can relate to that. My team say I'm the bottleneck, and it's like, Doug, it's like, you said you were going to ring them. And it doesn't, if you've got a delay in you responding or ringing, but along the way they're getting a friendly reminder and, notifications, automated notifications. I mean, yours is really cool. I mean, I am going to use some of your tips and tricks next time I get a speaking opportunity. Get that QR code up on the screen, get them with their phones open, because obviously everybody is told not to touch the phones, put the phones down, but you actually engage or bring them in and feed their dopamine, because everybody feels great about having their phone in their hand these days. So, but yeah, some clever stuff that you do there, sort of scan a QR code, and within seconds there's a text message, and the other thing is that I've seen you do is like you have a different QR code in different places. Yeah. And so that means that you can tell what of your marketing aspect or your speaking gig, or is it the desk outside, which part of what you're doing is working and where the most engagement is. And I think that's very often the problem that we have, is we don't measure where our stuff comes from.
100%. I now have 9 at most conferences. If I'm speaking, I have 9 at a conference. So I've got one that is in my presentation, one that's on the main stand. I've got 2 pop-up banners, so there's two individual ones on there. One on the iPad, one on the back of my phone, one on the brochure, one in the advert that floats around the event, and then one on the back of the laptop. And when I'm there, I don't recommend everybody going, do you know what you should do is have 9 at your stand. When I first started, there was different QR codes, but they all did exactly the same thing, and I've developed it out over time. Now, if I'm speaking to somebody, it may only be a subtle bit of difference. So if somebody comes over and says, oh, I've spoken to somebody that's been on one of your masterclasses before, I'll be like, oh, brilliant. Do you want to see a bit of a demo? And I'll get them to scan the masterclass one, which is going to incentivize them to get on the masterclass. If somebody comes over and they're a potential prospect for my one-to-one stuff, they're scanning a different one. The skeletal follow-up is identical. In fact, after message 2, the follow-up messages after that are the same for pretty much every one of them, with the exception of the brochure, because you could scan that whenever. It's all designed to be slightly more personable. So the follow-up, if you see me on stage, is thank you for watching me on stage. If you come by the stand, it's thank you for coming by the stand. If you scan the masterclass one, it's thank you for you inquiring about the masterclass. It's nuanced and slight differences, but as a prospect, I'm going through felt really looked after because it's personal to me. And if you've got your potential customer going through a process going, he's listening, they're much more likely to get to the end and give you their card details.
And we all like that.
Yep.
That's the end goal, people. Right? We're all in sales. And I say this very often, it's like we are all in sales, whether we like it or not. We're selling our idea, our thoughts, our processes, our products to people all the time. So you're always in selling and you're always selling.
If people aren't giving you money, you don't have a business, you have a hobby.
I like that one. Now, I'm going to ask you, are we all going to lose our jobs because of AI?
No, but I'm going to put an asterisk over the top of that. There was a brilliant analogy given to me a while back about AI and about how everybody's fearful that AI is going to steal everything. It's going to change the landscape. There's no point underestimating that. There will be elements of most people's jobs that can be handled with AI. You have the option of trying to fight against that and going, well, a human can do it better, or utilising it into your everyday and making your life easier. The analogy I was given was farmers when tractors came in. So like decades and decades ago, when people started using machinery for farming, you didn't all of a sudden lose every farmer. They just started operating the machinery. And their jobs fundamentally changed. And yes, there was a shift where there will be less people working in agriculture now than there were. But a lot of those people have gone into roles that might be surrounding it. So where farming used to be go out into the field and farm, you now have the people that operate the machinery, the people that build the machinery, the people that design the machinery. The people that are involved in that world in some way, shape or form is probably a similar number, even though you don't have as many boots on the ground in the actual fields. That's the impact I feel AI is going to have, in that it will fundamentally change a lot of bits and pieces that people are doing, and it's only just starting. I think people still want to buy from people, and that's an important part. Like, we buy from other human beings, but utilizing it in a way that feels behaviorally natural and feels like you're being looked after is still going to be a skill that you need to have, and utilizing AI for that is going to give you a benefit and an advantage, not a scary, right, what my job's up on the line feeling.
Okay, so we're all safe. I mean, I'm very, very kind to my AI, my chat GPT and stuff like that. I always thank it afterwards, just in case when it does take over the world, I'm one of the last that goes.
That's a sensible
thing. I was kind.
Try and send it gifts every now and then. Just like send it a rose emoji when it's not expected.
Yeah. Okay, so do you have goals?
I do. I never used to, but I do now.
Oh, okay. So why didn't you used to?
At the time I didn't see the point. So I had an idea of what I wanted, but I never quantified it. Never sat down and worked out, right, what do I need to do to get there? The best analogy I've heard recently is if you want to get somewhere, but you get in the car and don't put it in the sat-nav and then have to just guess as to how to get there, it's going to be very difficult to do so. So yeah, I'd never really thought about it. I'm probably spending too much time working in the business and going, right, I know I want to do that, so I need to do more of what I'm doing now. And in reality, what you're doing now, if it hasn't got you to your goals yet, you need to take a really strong, hard look at and go, is it going to get you there? Because, having your head in everything and then going, Christ, 6 months has passed and I'm still where I am. But I know if I keep on working harder, if I work just a little bit harder, I might get there. If you haven't got a plan to get there, then it's very, very difficult to do so.
Okay. So what changed your philosophy on it?
Well, about 12 months ago when I set up this new business, I invested quite heavily in my own sales training, same sales training that you're familiar with. And about 6 months into that, when I'd realised that the learnings that I'd had already were actually working and were developing, and then it was suggested to set a goal with a date and work out what to do to get to that goal, I went, do you know what, everything else has worked so far, so sod it, I'll put it into practice. This was October, so I set myself the goal of hitting 250,000 in closed sales within 12 months. And that target, I then, because I'd set it at 12 months, I worked out how many people I wanted to work with. That helped me indicate my fees, and it helped me inform my fees. And then I now know that to hit that, I need to work with 46 businesses over a 12-month period. 6 of them one-to-one done for you, and 40 one-to-one done with you. And then you break down the numbers. It's just over 1 done with you sale a week. And because I know, and this is where the goal really helps, is because I know that number, I know that 50% of people I send a proposal to generally sign with me. About 70% of people that I have a meeting with, I send over a proposal. Because of the automated thing I have in place, 98% of people turn up to meetings. And about 25% of people that see me book a meeting in the first place. So I just reverse engineered the numbers. So I now know to hit that 250 target, all I need to do is speak to 650 people.
Now, I'm just going to pause. No, I'm just going to pause there, because that is goal setting in action. That is a perfect example of all of the podcast episodes that I've done, and I've done over 150. That is the most succinct goal setting statement I have heard. So, Chris, hats off to you in that regard. I know, as a consequence, you will smash it. And you probably know how close you are. You don't need to share with us, but how close you are and how much it's working. But I love that. I just love that. The hairs on my arms just went all pointy-uppy and goosebumply, because that was like so very, very cool. And thank you for sharing that, because that is an important lesson for people.
Do you know the biggest learning of it for me was the target has since changed. I've actually hit that target in a much shorter period of time. So I don't mind sharing that, full transparency. I'm at 282,213 in closed sales. I have a ticker on my wall that ticks up that number as I go. So I've reset the target up to 500,000 from the end of the year. So 500,000 in 2024. The biggest thing for me was trying to think of, right, how do I generate £500,000 in revenue? Is quite a big task, and it's quantifiable, but it's difficult to try and get to. Because I reverse engineered it, and I know that I just need to speak to roughly 650 people. And that number's changed slightly now that I've upped the target, but if we stick on that number, all I need to do is, right, how do I speak to 650 people? And because I know when I do a conference, for example, if I speak on stage, typically I'm speaking in front of 100 to 300 people on average. I just need 6 of those. And then that's really easy. Like, that task of just speaking to 650 people is actually quite simple. It's 20 people a month. No, it's not. It's 60 people a month, roughly. Yeah. But that number is not, it's 2 people a day. I have to speak to 2 different people, 2 new people every single day. That task isn't a massive task. That task is really easy to do. To hit my target, all I have to do is speak to 2 new people every single day. That takes the pressure off. And because I know the numbers and I just trust the process and I know what I've got in place, all I have to do is go, right, what 2 people that I haven't spoken to recently do I need to speak to today?
Yeah. I mean, it's automation in action, isn't it?
Yeah, it's auto. Now there's the manual bit, so I still need to pick up the phone, still need to, get on voice note. But you know this in the circles that we are. One of the most powerful questions I ask anybody is actually like calling them up or voice note to them and saying, look, I've set myself a target 500,000. To do so, I need to speak to 2 new people every single day. So who do you know that would benefit from what I do that you can connect me with?
Yeah,
that question is probably the most profitable question that I've asked. or a variant of that question. And all I have to do is speak to 2 new people every single day, and I hit my target.
Okay, so one of my long-term mentors, somebody I've always looked up to in the financial services industry, Tony Gordon, he was hitting the top 0.25% of financial advisors globally consistently. And his question, well, his whole philosophy was daily goals. It was daily goals. Because if you have an annual goal, come October, you're starting to feel the pressure.
Yeah.
Because you're nowhere near it. And you've only got the massive amount of disappointment on the 31st of December when you haven't hit the goal.
Yeah.
But if you break it down, and I love, that you know what the figures are, how many of a certain type, how many of a different type is going to help you achieve your goal. And you've broken it down into daily goals. So I like that, and I commend that to the listeners. It's like daily goals is the thing. However, I know that you set your diary up in a special way.
I do, yes.
So doesn't that get in the way of the 2 people thing? Or does the automation sort of help you sort of talk to the people?
It doesn't get in the way of it. So it's probably a better way of me saying, instead of saying 2 a day, because that's a really easy breakdown, it's 14 a week. So I have my day set up in very, very particular ways. And I do this for a variety of reasons. But my Monday and Wednesday are sales days. And they are typically where I would have conversations with people that are interested in working with me. Now, there might be follow-up calls. There might be cold calls, as in people in my world that know me. So not cold, but in my world that know me that I haven't interacted with for a while. As long as I've diarised time within those days outside of sales calls to have 14 new connection conversations, then I'm fine. This week, I know I've got 19 sales calls booked in across Monday and Wednesday. Now, I can be flexible, so I actually have one of those on a Thursday because they're really keen and that was the only time that they could have in the week to do it. So I can be flexible when I need to be. Tuesdays, Thursdays for me are client delivery days. So this is a good example of a client delivery day that I would have. I've already had a client meeting this morning. All day today is consultations, onboardings. It's a client day. And when I'm working on a big project, it's also the days that I allocate time to actually deliver the project. Fridays are my personal growth day. So typically I won't have any meetings on a Friday. And if I do, there will be meetings that are designed around my own personal growth. So for example, I'm writing a book that's coming out in August. I've got a fortnightly book meeting that I have that generally happens on a Friday. That setup allows me to go mentally into those days in the right frame of mind. Today, I'm very much, right, how much can I deliver clients value today? Yesterday was very much, right, I need to be on my A game to be able to have sales conversations all the way through the day. So the goal is still there, but instead of it being 2 a day where it just gets muddled on every single day, I've got 2 set days in that week where if I do 7 connections on each of the days, then I'm still meeting
You're hitting your target.
So I don't... The problem with daily goals that I've had in the past is that if for a reason outside of your control you miss that, it feels like you've been let down on the week. But being able to be flexible and look at it and say, right, I need to do 7. If I then have a day where, like, if I need to cancel all of tomorrow, which touch wood doesn't need to happen, then I've got the ability to shuffle things around and go, right, how do I best manage that and deal with that on the fly, so to speak.
Okay, Saturday and Sunday? Saturday and Sunday?
I generally don't work on Saturdays. Generally, that's a sort of hard rule that I don't work on Saturdays. Sundays, I generally do maybe a couple of hours in the evening on Sunday to give myself a head start on the week. So typically Sunday evening will be a day where I will go through and clear my inbox and make sure that I have nothing going into the start of the week that's sort of urgent. Sometimes I'll finish off a project. Sunday evening, generally, I do bits and pieces. But, you know, for me, I run this business to give what I call Mickey Boat moments to my family. And I've been lucky that this year has been a very good year. I've managed to book a Disney cruise in August for my family. All bells and whistles, done the whole thing. My wife's incredibly excited, but my 3-year-old, who turns 4 in July, has consistently over the last few weeks said, "Dad, are we going on Mickey's boat soon? Can we watch a Mickey's boat video?" And he wants to watch vlogs on YouTube of the tours of the boat. The joy I get in the excitement that he has, because I've been able to have the freedom of time to be able to book it whenever I wanted to, and the freedom of money to be able to afford to go on it and not have to worry about it. That's massive to me. And my goal is, my fundamental purpose is bringing those moments, more moments to myself, more moments to my loved ones, and more moments to the good people that I surround myself with. That's what drives me. And if there's ever a day where I'm like, I need to make 7 phone calls or I need to do 7 voice notes, I'll look up at the wall and say, right, who can I bring a Mickey boat moment to today? And that just drives me along.
Cool. Mickey boat. Out of the mouths of babes, they say, don't they?
Yeah. It's just an unbridled amount of joy when he's so excited. And I know when he turns up, the smile on his face when he sees like the characters, that's priceless. You can't, I don't care what anybody says, you can't just buy that. You need to work hard to get that.
Yeah, it's all about experiences. In my, I've got to 60. Well, I'm 61 now, and wherever possible, any gift that I get anybody is an experience, rather than the easy option, which is a piece of tut, which nobody really wants, and they feign interest and smile at you when you hand it over, but really it's either going to go in the garage or in the understairs cupboard, or it's never going to see the light of day. So I'm big on the experiences. I think that's huge. I like that.
And you've got to allocate the time for it as well. Like, because I've got these goals in place, I can afford to take the time off. And I don't mean afford in terms of financial, albeit I'd be lying if I didn't say that was a part of it. But I can look at the year and go, right, those days I'm not working. Not that I don't understand, but when business owners say to me they're working 16-hour days, and they have been for the last year, and they're not progressing, I have to ask the question, why are you working? If you're working to try and give yourself a better life, but you're working all of the hours that you're awake to give you that, are you getting the end result?
It's not a better life, is it?
I hate to say this because it makes me sound terrible, but if that's the situation, you have a glorified job. You have a badly paid, with no benefits, job.
Yeah.
And we don't do this to have a job.
No. We do this for time freedom and financial freedom, money freedom, and family time. Okay, so what would be now? Obviously we've got the Mickey boat moments. We've got the £500,000, and you've alluded to the fact that you look up at your board. So, I know we discussed previously. You've got a ticker, which every time there's a sale, it clocks over so that you know exactly where you're doing, and I like that idea.
My favourite noise in the world. That.
Yeah. Oh yeah, ka-ching. No. Does it just tick or does it ka-ching?
It's one of the old style like airport tickers. So when the number goes up, it ticks like an airport. So that noise that you associate with the old style, like old train and ticket, it does that and it flips up, and it's just brilliant, because every now and then somebody will like buy a ticket to a masterclass or to an event, and I'm not aware that they were going to do it. They just did it off their own back, and the ticket goes up, and I'm like, oh,
happy days.
So it is 18,000 away from 300,000, which is
nice.
Well behind.
Yeah, nice. And I like that. And that's the other thing about goals, is that when you set them, sometimes you don't necessarily, you've got it set up and you've worked out what you need to do, but sometimes you don't know how it's going to come about. And the universe conspires with us once we have these goals and once we've told our subconscious what it is that we're trying to achieve. So are there any other big, hairy, audacious goals? If £500,000 turnover is a big, hairy, audacious goal, especially as you said, you started the business a year ago. So there's a previous life where, the experiences, this is another thing I want to share with people, the experiences that you pick up, and when you stop doing something, those experiences are with you.
Yeah.
And sometimes you can carry them forward and make them work more effectively than when you learned them. So that, that's a good thing, which is why you're able to accelerate the path that you're on, because presumably you're now doing something that you wanted to do, and now you have the opportunity to do it. Sometimes these things are thrust upon us, though, unexpectedly.
Yeah, I've always been like I look back and I've had quite a varied life. I was a DJ in Magaluf for 6 years. I've kind of been all over the shop in terms of what I've done. I've worked on cruise ships DJing. I've been quite lucky. Tell a lie. I've been lucky, but I've put myself in the position to be lucky, I think is the best way to say that. And I've worked hard to get there. But I never really had a plan. And I think this is where my aversion to setting goals had come from, because I was always glass half empty kind of person where, but if I don't meet that, then I'm going to be annoyed, so I'm not going to set it. And I think that was always a mentality. And I'd never planned anything. And that kind of changed when we found out we were having baby number one. I was like, shit, I need to have a plan now. And it was very, very much, I needed to have something in place to make sure. I was always of the opinion, look, I'd fall on my feet, I'd be fine. But bringing a kid into the world changed my priorities. I needed to make sure that everything was looked after and done in a way from there. So I've come from the world of, I'll see what happens. And when I got the job in Mallorca, I literally booked a flight over, a one-way flight. I had accommodation sorted for 4 weeks. I did not have enough money to get a flight home. But in truth, I knew if I absolutely fell on my arse, then I could reach out to my family. But I had no money in my account to get a flight home. In that first month, I remember going to a place called the Eurocaf, which had little pasta dishes that were only €1, and that's what I lived on, because I didn't have enough money. The first day I went around every single bar during the day, and I asked if they were looking for DJs. And I organised 1 or 2 trials. And then that night I went back round and asked every single one of the bars. And I walked into one bar where half an hour earlier the DJ had said that they were moving to the new place that was being built at the bottom of the road. So I walked in and the guy said, today is a really good day for you to ask that question. And he said, I can give you a trial tomorrow night. And I kind of already had one organised, so I was a bit cheeky. And I said, I've already got one organised for tomorrow night. I can do tonight. And the guy said, do you know what? Let's do tonight. Did that night. This is still the first day that I'd ever been to this island. Did the trial that night. Got the job. Got given 3 shots of absinthe. Threw up on the floor in the DJ box. Because absinthe is nobody's friend. And I remember the big boss coming over, and I was like, I've just ruined possibly the best opportunity I've ever had. And he looked at me and he went, absinthe? And I went, yeah. And he went, welcome to the team. And then just continued downstairs. And I was like, oh God, what have I got myself into? But like, a lot of people say to me, oh, you were lucky to walk into the bar at that time. And I was like, yeah, but I walked into the bar at the time.
Yeah, but not... yeah, they forget about the 30, 40 other bars that you walked into.
Yeah.
Beforehand. Twice. Earlier on in the day and in the evening.
Exactly. I was being invited on bar crawls and people were like, oh yeah, go on a bar crawl. It's your first day. And I'm like, I want a job.
Yeah, I need a job.
I want to work it. I can go on a bar crawl when I have the job.
Yes.
But I need the job first. And from there, so like that was always my kind of, right, I'll see what happens approach. And it did me well, to be fair, but it also got to the point where I'm like, where am I going from here? And I never had an answer to that. And I still don't fully know, but what I do know is my sort of main goal over the next 5 years is to turn this business into a 7-figure business. It's a shiny goal, but isn't really the driving force. For me, I want to bring in, there are 3 people that I want to bring in. One of them I already have. I want to make sure that he's taking home to his family over 80,000 a year. I want to make sure that he is looked after because he's got a little kid and I absolutely love him. I think he's a beautiful soul, a beautiful human being. I want to be able to give him the ability to give his new baby Mickey Boat moments. And the other 2 that I've got in mind that I want to bring in, I want them to be looked after. So, but I also know that when they're looked after, that will give me the ability to have more Mickey Boat moments myself. And I can if I've got people doing this, this, and this, I can take a bit of a step back and have one day where it's like, right, you handle all of that for the day. Like, that's kind of the bigger goal for me, is I want to have the financial freedom, but the time one's the most important one for me. I look, and my dad's 72 at the moment, and we go to the football quite a lot. I've had a season ticket to a very terrible football team for far too long now. But
it's QPR, everybody. It's QPR, just so that we know who the terrible team is.
Oh yeah, and if you do know a QPR fan, we know each other. There aren't that many of us. We meet as a support group at the stadium every fortnight. But like, travelling over, so I'm based over in Northern Ireland, and I try and travel over for as many games as possible. And I've set myself a goal this coming season, next season, of going to as many of them as possible, because I know that as my dad passes 72, 73, 74, there's going to come a point where he's not going to be able to go to as many games. I'm fully aware of that. And he's fully aware of that as well. So I want to take advantage of that as much as possible. Now, me flying in for the games every fortnight, or going to as many of them as possible, I need the financial freedom to be able to do that, to book the flights and everything that goes around with it. I need the time freedom to be able to just know, right, when the fixtures come out, I can then block my diary on the fixture days. I've got an amazingly supportive wife and family that, are behind me 110% and like really believe in what I'm doing, which is such a useful thing. And when I say it's not essential, I mean you can grow a business without it. But for me,
it's essential. Mate, it's essential.
Yeah, for me, it's essential, and that for me is more important than looking at the money in the bank. Like, I need to have the money in the bank to be able to facilitate that. But money means nothing in terms of just having it there. Money is what you buy, that you, as you said, what you remember. Nobody remembers, oh, that scarf's lovely. Everybody remembers, do you remember that weekend that we went away?
Yeah.
And that for me is an important bit.
That's perfect. So, have you got a Chris Dillon goal-setting nugget? Something the world needs to know that you haven't touched on already. So, as long as you like, goal-setting nugget that the world needs to know, according to Chris Dillon.
The nugget that I have, and it's not my nugget, but it's one that I've massively leaned on, is that people massively underestimate what they can do in 5 years and massively overestimate what they can do in one. And I think that's driven me from a goal perspective of, I want to have a 7-figure business. My first year was a £250,000 business. Had I tried to make the first year a 7-figure business, I'd be really annoyed right now. Knowing that the first year was a £250,000, making it a 7-figure business within 5 years is very achievable. When people start out, I saw Frank Flegg speak on stage a few years ago, and he mentioned a point, and he talked about at any point in your life you can have a slight deviation where your life kind of goes like that. So this is the direction you're going, but you can make one small change and it does that. But over time, you end up in a significantly different place to when you started. And I've been implementing what I call the 1% task. I've just posted it in the Facebook group this morning. What is the 1% task? So on my whiteboard on the wall over there, I have a 1% task that every week I do. Now, the rule is it can only be a 15 to 30 minute task. And it's something that when I think about that task, I go, do you know what? That'll be good to put in. I write it on the wall and it becomes a 1% task. And every week I complete one of them. Because at the end of the year, I've done 52 1% improvements on the business. And that then helps me. But I'm very, very aware that small changes right now will put me in such a different position in 5 years, because I understand that you can underestimate where you can be in 5 years. But if I say, right, a small change now in 2 weeks is going to bring me an extra 10 grand, it's an unrealistic expectation for the most part. There are ways, but typically there's your big shiny objects, there's doing nothing, and most people fit somewhere in the middle. But if you're doing nothing because you're trying to get to this bit, then you're guaranteeing the worst case scenario of actually doing something. So that nugget has sort of lived with me for a long time, that if you don't set a goal, or if you set an unrealistically short goal, then you're not in the best place. And the last bit on that I'd add in is if you're setting a goal for the sake of setting a goal, i.e. if you don't, the hypothetical, you didn't have a business, you wanted to make 10 grand every single month. So you're like, right, I'll start drop shipping. If you don't have a passion for what is going to get you to that goal, then you'll never get there, because there's so much about running a business that isn't easy, even when you have a passion for what you do. That I guarantee you, if you're just trying to do it to go, right, I want this, but I'm not going to enjoy the journey to get there.
Got no chance. You got no chance.
Because I guarantee you, most days, if you're not enjoying what you're doing, you're going, oh, why am I doing this? The days that are hard are the days that will derail you entirely. The days that are hard when you have passion and when you set values, and we could talk about all of that all the time, but set values, set like processes, what you want to get out of it. When you have those hard days, you can take a step back and go, right, why am I doing this? And then having things around to go, that's why I'm doing it. Right, let's take a couple of minutes, realign myself, and then go back into it.
That's why I've got so many little jobs, just so that I can pull in some variety.
Yeah.
But it's a shameless plug for my book, Think Simple, Win Big, How to Build the Business of Your Dreams with a Few Simple Goals, right?
Yeah.
You've just described it. It's like all the stuff that you've got to remember about running a business that's going to get in the way, and you've got to have a passion. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to overcome the obstacles when they come. Now, have we missed anything? Is there something that you thought, do you know what? It really would be good if I could, and I'm just thinking maybe mention the book that's coming out later on in the year?
Yeah, it's so the book is 29th of August is the current working launch date. The book's called No One Gives a Shit About Your Business. And the reason that I'm writing it is I think too many businesses forget that their prospects don't care about them. I think that for a couple of reasons. Number one is we understand our business better than anybody else. So for me, there could be part of me that would go, I don't understand why people aren't thinking about somebody's customer journey. But I think like that because that's what I build and that's what I do. I think too many business owners know so much about their business that they forget the people going through it don't know anywhere near as much. And they don't cater their experience or tailor their customer experience around somebody who, A, doesn't care about them yet. They just care about the outcome, not about the business. B, doesn't have the motivation yet and doesn't understand it. And C, will at any point, given the option of slight friction, just go, do you know what? I won't bother. I went to, where did I go the other day? To the Hilton Hotel. I was getting a flight back from Birmingham Airport on Wednesday night, just after the masterclass. And my flight wasn't until 10 o'clock at night. So I had the option of finishing where I was at 5 o'clock and going and having food at the hotel or walking around to the airport. And I went into the hotel and actually found a table and I was stood at the bar. And I stood at the bar for like 5 minutes. And I was there going, do you know what? If it's going to be really, really slow, I might as well just get round to security, get through it early because there have been some problems with Birmingham Airport security, and have some food the other side. So I'd been waiting there for 5 minutes. Now, it wasn't bad service, but it was just such a little nuance where I just went, do you know what? I'll just leave. And I wasn't angry. I understood that the bar was busy. There was no issue. I didn't think it was bad. But that cost them what for them would be a very insignificant amount of money. But it was just one of those things where they lost a customer because of my circumstances, because I have a life outside of that scenario. And too many business owners think, right, they're not getting back to me. They're not picking up the phone. They must not be interested. It's like, no, they just have a life. And they don't care about your phone call more than their life. Hey, I want people to understand the perspective of your prospects and your leads that are coming through from your lead generation campaigns are actual human beings that have an actual life outside of picking up the phone to you. Their priority is not you. And if their priority was you, they'd probably be running your business. You need to be able to understand that they don't care yet. But when you do understand that, and you do understand that somebody coming in doesn't care, and you've got to be persistent, you've got to make sure that you're making it really, really easy for somebody to give you money. It needs to be the easiest thing in the world. Once you start understanding that, how you design their experience is a lot better, And not only do you convert more into leads and you save yourself time with automation, those are crucial things that I'm very much glossing over, but they're really important. You also end up working with the people that you want to work with, and your life is nicer.
Mm. Yeah, my team say, how come all of your clients are lovely, Doug? Well, don't let arseholes into my life.
Oh yeah, do not be afraid to. I had this earlier on this week. There was something that the guy said in a sales call that was just something was a little bit of a red flag, and I have my core values written down, and I know them off by heart. And whenever there's a little bit of a red flag, I go, right, which value is that not appealing to? And for this one, it sounds harsh, but one of my core values is I work with good people. And it felt off. And I just said at the time, I said, look, I appreciate you taking the time to have the chat. I don't think I'm the person that can help you with this. I can direct you to a few other people, but I just don't think I'm going to be a good fit. And that was it. That's the end of the conversation. Because I know that if I had have gone, he might be a bit of an arsehole to work with, but he's going to spend money with me, I'd regret it further down the line.
Always. Another top tip there. Don't bring people into your lives. If you get a gut feeling that they're an arsehole, it's probably true.
Yeah. And,
a friend of mine who doesn't use the word arsehole, but he says, once a messer, always a messer. People don't change. If they've got to 30, their habits are pretty much embedded. The way that they're going to be is the way that they're going to be. So don't bring those sorts of people into your lives.
It's not your job to try and change them.
Well, you can't. I mean, it's just too hard, isn't it? Yeah. It's just too hard. So the book's out. I'm sure there's a website, a waitlist website.
There will be one launching soon. Yeah, the first draft of the book is written. We're going through and doing the first round of edits as we speak. We've got 5 more chapters to edit, which reminds me, I need to sit down and edit 5 more chapters. The waiting list is going to go up, I believe, middle to end of next month.
Okay.
And then 29th of August is the launch date. So feel free to, across all of my socials, you'll see it. I'm fairly active across social media.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to make sure the links to Chris are in the show notes. He does have a freebie, which again, the link will be there, and you can click on that and see how clever his stuff is, because it really is very, very, very clever. And it's necessary for every business. So yeah, get in touch with Chris, connect with him, join his Facebook group, and find out about this automation thing. And when you're ready, make sure that you're one of the 2 people that he needs to speak to on one of the days. So Chris, thank you very much for joining me. It's been an absolute pleasure, and we will be working together. And as I said, I explained to you, it's like, I've got stuff loaded on stuff, and it's like, right, I've got to have the thing that we can automate. But I have no doubt I'm going to be one of the 2 at some stage very, very soon.
I look forward to it. Thank you for having me this morning as well.
It's been a pleasure.